Round two of a very entertaining championship takes us to a track which not many people, despite the length and longevity this circuit has had in iRacing circles, have really had the opportunity to go out there and race. This, by all intents and purposes, is a difficult track. It's a roller coaster ride throughout all three sectors to work out where you need to be. And of course, when it comes to racing with the eFormula series, with your esports broadcasting network, it's action here today, which becomes the big key. Virginia International Raceway, and in fact, as a bit of history, the first ever circuit broadcasted live on YouTube in any form of capacity on the iRacing service. My name's Jake Sperry, Frank Marchese joining alongside me for the ride, just getting into the end fringes of practice. And Frank, this really is a difficult circuit. This is all about consistency. You're not going to worry about 10 instant points today, because if you go off, you are spinning for miles in the grass here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that it's a difficult circuit, other than the first couple of corners and the last couple of corners. It's pretty much a straight line with a hairpin at the top of it and a straight line back down. It's a big, long circuit, a lot of undulation changes, and especially in the final sector, it is a racetrack with a lot of blind corners. Reminds me a lot of the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix, with just blind corners tailing away from you to surprise you at the very last minute. But this is one of those racetracks that doesn't see a lot of action in leagues anymore. It's going to be a great race here to watch tonight.
Worth noting that Austrian Grand Prix circuit, the Red Bull Ring, is actually scheduled to come onto the iRacing service sometime in 2021. So hopefully we see that in the not too distant future. But what we have seen is some very interesting times over the course of practice. Doesn't guarantee everything, but it is clear that there is a big difference in terms of how much pace you can get out of this sort of circuit. So we've seen likes of 38.5s from Alexander Rogenbach, but top of the times, it's Pavel Vasiliev on a 132.9. So we don't have guarantees on who's the fastest or who's even shown all of their hands so far.
Yeah, and that 38.5 kind of upsets me a little bit, because I took a couple of laps around here. Now, granted, these guys are running setups, and I was running on the base iRacing setup, and I haven't touched iRacing as far as driving in about 3 or 4 weeks. I was able to do a 38.9, so at least I'd be able to race with nobody here tonight. I'd be getting passed by instantly.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting situation in terms of how you get pace out of this circuit. This is one where time just evaporates if you even just look to corner funnily. Here is 15 minutes of qualifying is about to start. The championship tables there. Manuel Domingo on top for the Radicals Online Track Racer team, 20 points overall. Javier Alvarez with 16 and Pavel Vasiliev with 14. But the big key is no Manuel Domingo here to really go out there and challenge. So it's going to be a little bit of a different battleground that we're going to see today. Of course, we knew that the championship leader was not going to be here. But what we also know in terms of the battling that we've got moving forward is that everybody needs to be on this playing field. Qualifying so far for this sort of series and over the course of the last season as well has been incredibly important.
Yeah, it certainly has, and you can see it's still very much early days in the championship. Alvarez is here, so we will most likely see a new championship leader come tonight. As a matter of fact, everyone behind him, pretty much from second on down to 11th at Javier De La Fuente, that is, everyone else is here tonight, so it's certainly going to make it difficult for Domingo to stay up at the championship. Darn near impossible, if I do say so myself.
Well, sometimes it might not be impossible, but sometimes we should be seeing a lot of battles in and around. So this track is a long one. It's 5.26 kilometers. It's not the longest layout of this circuit. Of course, the Grand West and the Grand East layouts of this track, of course, have been a little bit longer for those who have raced in such series out there in sim racing, such as the Virginia Targa. That's the sort of layout that you find being driven time and time again. But those first times are going to be coming in on the board. Paul Ilbrink then sets the first with a 37.7 as a rough guide to try and make sure that going out around this circuit is going to be worth keeping in mind. But it's going to be also interesting because a lot of drivers are going to be setting those early times as out laps and not flying laps.
Yeah, exactly right. And just try to get the heat in the tires, especially early on in this run here. You have a lot of chance with how windy and twisty the first sector is around this racetrack. And then again, this long run we're seeing up the hill here that Brink is on. A very tight right-hander coming, left-hander, pardon me, coming up. You can take that flat out, hard on the brakes, be as brave as possible. You come under the big tree, and now you're down to the other long straightaway here before you get up to those couple of very difficult blind corners here at the end of the lap.
Yeah, and it's those corners at the end of the lap which make life very, very difficult to get things going. It's a very slow section of track, and also one of the prime places to go out there and make some overtakes. Of course, this track is an older scan and will forever be in memorial, because up at the top of the hill they've got the old oak tree there, which of course has been cut down in real life, but will be forever remembered here in the iRacing service, Frank, for what it has done as a legendary corner of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how nice is it to be able to find a little bit of shade in one of these race cars? And it's such a great aesthetic view as well, as Pavel Vasiliev goes fastest overall as Ilbrink slides off behind him. It's not that often you get to drive under a tree. Sure, you'll get an overpass, you'll get a walkway every now and again. But to drive under a tree, that's a very nice touch for any racetrack, one you don't really see often.
And what will be also unique is how you deal with the bumps and the tree roots underneath the circuit as you go on through the right-hand bend, which will make life very difficult to work out. This is an incredibly bumpy surface as well that you have to race on today around this Virginia International Raceway course. It is going to be tough to get all the lap time out of there, as Dave Guild suddenly finds Jeff Browning in a little bit of five minds going through the big left-hand corner of turn 3, and ultimately runs into the back of him.
Yeah, and that will happen. Is these corners do come up on you quick, and there's also, I believe it's 3 and 4 in the first sector. It's a little bit awkward. You kind of have to brake while you're turning, which you know these cars are not good at doing. So that kind of messes you up a little bit. You're going to find guys, especially in the first sector, running over each other, running around each other as Guild slides off again. Another thing very easy to do in turn 1.
Yeah, it is, and it's a tough 17 or 20 turns, as it says here in iRacing, but there's a lot of A's around this circuit for how much that you've got to really work along, as these times are starting to creep up in on the board. Javier Alvarez currently in 4th position right now on a 33.7. Dave Guild up there in 2nd position. Great qualifying effort by him so far there in 2nd place. And of course, arriving late to session, trying to work things out, and actually just burying himself in the tyres just then, was Ian Keeman in the 75 White Devils car.
Yeah, it's Keeman. We're riding on board with Alvarez going through this twisty and windy first sector here. But yeah, Keeman just showing up a little bit late. And his teammate, Jan Steltenpool, also just making it in. So that would give us a field of, 15 here for the race, at least for right now.
Yep, so 15 drivers will be all looking for the best possible times out there. Currently, Esteban Guadarrama is there in 5th place on a 34.6. So reasons to be excited with that sort of time at the moment. And that's going to be key. Christoph Boozy jumping up then to 2nd position with a 33.152, just half a tenth back. And this is a tough track to go and find that time over the course of 15 minutes here, Frank. It's 38 degrees out there. That track is only going to be getting hotter the more that drivers go around it.
Yeah, this is a very, very hot and slick racetrack right now. And Boozy currently leading the privateer standings with the 12 points that he got from Road America 2 weeks ago. Very, very nice time for Boozy. We said it 2 weeks ago in the opener. He has the potential to be a championship contender here if he shows up on a weekly basis, which is something he did not do last year. So this could be a very good start to the championship for Boozy, as I believe that was Leonardo Fabian that was up and over.
Yeah, that was going through the south bend left of turn 10, back steps out, going up and over the crest. He finds those tyres on the inside and flips back up onto the racing surface. Lucky enough, didn't collect anybody there going through. And that is such a committed section of track. It's known from turn 6 all the way up to turn 10 as the snake, because you're going through these fast lefts and rights, which very much you need all of the commitment and downforce available.
Yep, we're looking at Mark Brunning here. We'll get on board with him here. He's right at the base of this snake. It's a fairly easy flat out section in these cars. However, it's the top of the hill. It's this next corner here, this hard left. You need to be really committed, turn in early, don't catch too much of that curb. Otherwise, that will kick you around. And then the hard braking down into the very top of this racetrack for the long straightaway.
Yeah, of course, the Oak Tree corner, and then you head down the back straight through Madison Avenue over towards the roller coaster at 14 and 14A out there on track. So Marcellus Bruning currently in 8th position overall, be searching for time. Vasiliev has gone faster on a 1:32.833, so has extended the margin out there on top. Ilbrink in 4th, Alvarez there in 5th position, but it's Vasiliev, Boozy Guild, and Bruning currently in 8th place will look to make this charge to the line, looking to try and get as much as possible out of this one. 34.4 he's currently on at the moment, and that was a 34.5 on that lap, so no improvement.
And we just rode on board. We don't usually take the visor cam all that often here, but just to show you how difficult that last section is, we showed you exactly what the driver is seeing, and he has to commit to turning into these corners before he can actually see them. That is what makes the back end of this racetrack so difficult. The front end of this racetrack is just so technical, and that's going to be a challenge in and of itself. But you can at least see those corners. The last group of corners here, it's impossible to pick them up before you're already committed to them.
Exactly. It's blind through the final sector, which makes life so difficult to work out where you are and how much you're attacking. Still 2 drivers here, as we are through nearly 10 minutes of qualifying, are still waiting on their times. Max Shabley and Alexander Rogenbach have yet to put times in. Jan Steltenpool on a 43.3 is not a representative lap time, but that's an improvement for him as he crosses the line. A 36.8 crossing the line, so definitely some work there. But of course, for those who are making problems in practice, trying to get the best out of one lap, you also need to survive. It's a very low instant point limit here, as per usual, 10 instant points, and this is a track which can very quickly creep up with you with those instant points.
Yeah, and with the physics of the iRacing grass, it could become a very, very long night for you if you get off track, because you're going to get you're going to get the off track. You're more likely than not, you're going to get a 2x for losing control of the car. And then coming up back onto the racetrack, depending where you go off, you could spin the car again. So you have 4 to 5 incident points just on one off, and that's half your race gone.
Absolutely, and that will be, of course, the key. Vasiliev has the fastest final sector of anybody as he improved to a 32.665, half a second clear of anybody else. And I have a feeling that today is going to be all about surviving, or rather, every time I've gone to look at Paul Ilbrink, for example, in the Radicals car, he's been off the road.
Yeah, we've been noticing this with Ilbrink as of late. He did not end the season last year on the strongest of notes, made a couple of mistakes 2 weeks ago at Road America as well. So Ilbrink, I would hate to think he's feeling pressure in the second round of 10, but just his run of form as of late, going back to the end of last season, is not the same Paul Ilbrink we saw at the beginning of season 2.
And the key as well is now he's been bumped down to 5th place because I Am Keyman has crossed the line and has jumped up into that 4th position. So some really good times going in. Javier De La Fuente as well up there in 7th in what is a wonderful drive from him so far. So it looks like a lot of drivers either loving or not loving this sort of place. It's one which I think is a Marmite track or a Vegemite track.
Yeah, and De La Fuente in the first of the Rebellion Racing black machines up in that 7th position, just crossing the line there. Vasiliev on another flyer ending that lap. I guess that might have been an out lap for him because he was in the 2-minute bracket there.
Yeah, definitely looked like an out lap then for Pavel Vasiliev, who's getting one last set of tyres on, one last go around, see if he can improve a bit more. You have no idea how good you are. We know Ilbrink's fantastic when the chips are down and he goes for it. Alvarez will be searching for that pace as well. And of course, a lot of drivers haven't really practiced this sort of circuit. Javier Alvarez was one who said, I didn't have the circuit until this week. So it's one where Javier Alvarez looks at it and goes, well, I'm trying to learn this one on the fly. We don't often come to this place.
I've had this circuit for quite some time, and I was still putting down times that were 4.5 seconds slower than Alvarez. It just shows how good a driver he is and how much work he has put into learning this racetrack and getting a setup that's going to be competitive here. For somebody who has never run at this racetrack before, to only be 1.5 seconds off in 2 weeks worth of practice, that's pretty good.
I wouldn't even say 1.5 seconds. It's 1.1 that he finds himself behind.
That's what I meant. My apologies.
As Leonardo Fabian's had another little moment with 2 minutes to go, it seems. So looks like a lot of drivers struggling. And if you're not out there on track, you're not going to be setting a lap time. And that's going to be a little bit awkward as they go through. Everyone now puts a lap down on the board. Max Shabley then with a 35.1 gets it all sorted. But now it's all about who can find a little bit more pace here, as Christophe Bouzy might just be the last one over the line for when that main flying lap really comes into the books. He crosses the line with about 1:33-ish on the clock.
Alvarez just put in a very good lap as well, put in his personal best at a 33.565 there for Alvarez beginning his final lap. Jeff Browning is going to be the next car to cross the line here. Should be good to go, and this will definitely be his final lap as we're entering the final minute of this 15-minute session.
We certainly are. Ilbrink has jumped up to 3rd position. Browning leapfrogs Leonardo Fabian, jumps up into 11th position. Hello, Paul. Going through, for a big moment as he goes through. He was trying to get a little bit of practice in, and there will be no chance to improve for Browning then as he goes through. One more lap available for Dave Guild out there, who is in 4th position right now, but a lot.
Make racing number 11, and he certainly has laid down the gauntlet this week as we watch Dave Guild go up through that snake section. Only one Tulip Racing entry here tonight, and that is the 98 of Guild.
Yeah, certainly is. So now we're starting to see those times come in. Checkered flag out on Javier Alvarez as he charges for the line. 33.542, not good enough to jump a place. I Am Keeman is in 5th position right now and really searching for that run over towards the line. Has he got enough to put himself up in the book and comfortable with where he is out there on circuit? He's on a 33.4 right now, and as he crosses a 37.7, no dice for I Am Keeman. Dave Guild then will be next in terms of that scrap. Will he now get himself into the best possible position here as he makes his way through the hog pen and on the charge to the line? Has he done more than enough at this moment? No, he will dive down into the pits. Ilbrink, we know, is not on a lap. De La Fuente struggling, and that will only leave Max Shabley with a chance of improvement then in 13th position. The grid is effectively sealed with Pavel Vasiliev on pole, but where will it all go for Shabley? He is starting to find improvements in the middle sector, which will certainly the privateer standing leader, I should say, in the number 77. He goes from 2nd position. 3rd on the grid then will be Paul Ilbrink. A little bit of a surprise there, some would say, with 4th position very much held by Dave Guild. And then you got I Am Keeman in 5th and Javier Alvarez then in position number 6. 7th place then will go out then to Javier De La Fuente with Esteban Guadarrama there in 8th position, with Marcellus Bruning and Jean-Michel Gagnon there making 9th and 10th place. Jeff Browning, Max Shabley 11th and 12th. Not much to split between them. With Leonardo Fabian, Jan Steltenpool, and then Alexander Rogenbach making the 15 here, Frank. Let's take to the grid.
Yeah, and it's certainly going to be a very, very fun race. It's a difficult racetrack. Turn 1 is certainly going to be a point of interest for these guys, as I'm sure everyone's going to be looking to try to slowly work their way through what is a very long turn 1 and a difficult first sector.
And a difficult getaway off of the grid as well. It's quite narrow here, same as it was over with Road America. So they're going to have to be very alert to how they all figure out how they get off of the line here. Vasiliev with the box seat inside line on the run to one. It's a deceptively long run as well to that opening corner. Can very easily fall foul if things turn around in the wrong direction. They have those 2 minutes to grid up. It is a 38-lap race as well here today. It's around an hour or so, an hour and 5 minutes. So you've got that one pit stop that will definitely be there in the books. You want to make sure that you are absolutely on it, making sure that you can put yourself in the best possible position. So, like Sir Paul Ilbrink will be trying to wait as long as possible. If you haven't had the chance already, ladies and gentlemen, you can like, share, and subscribe for more amazing sim racing action brought to you by the Esports Broadcasting Network as we get ourselves ready, streaming live, of course, with all of this amazing effort that goes in. Ilbrink now on the grid. Everybody set and ready. Let's start the lights procedure then, because we are getting ourselves going at VIR for 38 laps, and the lights go off, and we are racing. Boozy immediately tries to cover Paul Ilbrink, but he has to leave the line at the moment, and again he tries to cover a second time. Besides, the outside works. Guild has to lift off then, going into turn number one. Vasiliev unchallenged. Ilbrink up to second. Here comes Ian Keeman down the inside, and he will move up to third position. So Boozy dropping backwards, and what a start as well, as the two Javiers fight it to NASCAR Bend.
Yeah, and oh, there goes De La Fuente's off. There's another car. That's one of the Rebellion cars. I believe it's the 31 of Maz is off in the same corner. But I was surprised. A very, very good getaway for all of these guys as Vasiliev leads them through the snake for the first time.
Yeah, very easy to get it wrong, and just like that, we saw it go wrong with those two Rebellion cars coming together. Then disaster off of the start of this race. There you can see 1 and 2 bang into the wall, or not the wall, but into each other, which is rule 1, of course, of sim racing. Up the oak tree then, for the first time, Vasiliev with control, Ilbrink in second. But the key is going to be how you attack through that section of track, because this run from the oak tree all the way to the hog pen is going to be, the roller coaster, correct myself, that's going to be one of the prime places today to get it done.
It certainly is, and it's a difficult place to make a pass because it's so blind and because you have to be so committed to these corners. But it is, you can spook somebody, get them off their line, and gain a position that way. It's a difficult corner to make a pass, but it can also make life very easy for you.
It's very easily a difficult corner. I think
yes.
That's the right way to say it. 1 lap of 38 then scored in the books as Boozy looks to line up I.M. Keeman for third place. Big lunge down the inside. Can he get it slowed up? Because Keeman will now come back on that inside for 2. 3 will come along very quickly here at the NASCAR Bend, and he won't get there. So it's a good move from Christoph Boozy back up into the podium places there in third. And of course, you've got Alvarez and Guild. And what an interesting battle it's going to be between those for third place right now, because you have the Privateer champion of last season against the leader in the Privateer championship.
Yeah, and Keeman now going to be battling with the White Devils team for an actual team championship this year, as Boozy had a very, very good run down that straightaway. It's going to be difficult to make a lunge in that section of racetrack because there is no curb on the outside, and if you just clip that grass just in the slightest, it's going to whip you right around the other way. So a very good job by Boozy to keep the car on the racetrack there.
Yeah, we've got one retirement so far in the form of Leonardo Fabian, so that's going to be difficult to see him moving forward. But you're absolutely right there, Frank. It is going to be difficult to get some moves. Jean-Michel Gagnon, by the way, he's going to try and make one straight away as he dives straight on through Esteban Guadarrama. And side by side, that is Jeff Browning and Max Shabley going at it there, and Shabley getting the move done. Yeah,
Shabley trying to pick up from his teammate here, as I believe that's Guadarrama that's off in the 24. It is. And again, you spoke about it during the pre-race, just how far you can go off here and just how long it could take for you to get back on track, as Ilbrink really putting Vasiliev under pressure.
Yeah, Paul Ilbrink wants to get the move done. They have been caught, by the way, by Christoph Boozy in that pack, so Boozy is probably the one
Browning's had a
to
moment.
Make the moves. And once more, Frank.
Yeah, Browning's had a moment there in turn 1, battling with his teammate.
Just run wide.
Yep, he did, and that's exactly what we were talking. It's exactly what I was just talking about. No curb on that outside. You get in the grass, it's pretty much all over.
Absolutely. And then just behind that, Alexander Rogenbach going for his own moment as he went through that section. Not ideal at all there as they all try and figure out how they go through. We caught it, of course, on the replay here as they go through. But now battle for the lead. Ilbrink's got a run here against Pavel Vasiliev. They'll only have 8 instances of DRS and a little bit of a boost, and he'll try and use one of them now, going to the outside to try and pick off this move and move into the race lead. But Vasiliev having none of it here. I think he used one of his own to defend it. Look how close they get as they go through the roller coaster. Boozy trying to attack on the outside, couldn't find a lane.
Yeah, Boozy again started in second in this race, and he has certainly shown a lot of pace, as I believe Max Chablis had a problem.
And Bruning's gone off as well. So Chablis and Bruning fighting together on the run in towards that roller coaster section. And it was just Bruning later on the second phase of braking, a lot more smoother of a brake, taps Chablis around, and he goes for a real roller coaster.
Yeah, Chablis certainly had a big moment there, and Chablis still has not gotten back on the racetrack. Now he has, but still, it takes forever to get back on the racetrack if you have an off here. And you'll be seeing that all race long. One mistake here, it's not just a slight off, it's a big off every single time.
And one of the keys around this place is that all of the track is effectively raised on a plateau around this circuit. If you do have an off, you're going downhill no matter where you are on the circuit.
You're going downhill, and it's a very awkward place where if you spin coming back on the racetrack, you can easily high center yourself. We saw that several times with cars basically ending their night because they high centered themselves on a curb. You can do that very, very easily on this track as well.
Oh, you can, and that's going to be trouble as Jean-Michel Gagnon finds out, going through the oak tree corner there in that Williams-inspired machine, just gets it out of shape and then has to effectively bail out of things. Going on through, very easily done. Still no change in the top 4 at this moment in time. Everybody stuck in line at this moment. So this is getting a little bit awkward here for Paul Ilbrink as he goes on to the 5th lap of this race. He knows he's got pace. He knows he can get right behind Vasiliev. But I wonder, on a track where it's tough to pass, whether he's trying to play the numbers game on the fuel.
He could possibly be doing that. He is taking looks, but Vasiliev just seems completely yep, there it is.
We saw it at Zandvoort at the season finale last season, how Paul Ilbrink can very easily pick up a small mistake here and there when he's pushing too hard. We've seen a couple looks. I think he was pushing for that move, gets a little bit of a mistake coming out of turn 1, and then all of a sudden, it's second to fourth in a heartbeat.
Just hit the gas a little too early coming out of turn 1, and that's something you can pick up the gas early. The problem is you have to short shift before that to deaden the RPMs into third gear and then get that big runoff. He might have either mistimed that or just got a little too confident in his setup. But here at Oak Tree Corner, we were going back to the incident before with, I believe it was with Gagnon. That corner tightens up. It's a double apex. The entry to the corner is a lot more wide open, and going under the tree is a lot tighter. It's almost a complete 90 degrees. So that's not just a hairpin up there. It's a double apex with 2 different angle corners.
Certainly is. Ilbrink then has gone through on I Am Keenan back up into 3rd position as Jean-Michel Gagnon. Speak of him, he's now about to lose that place because here comes Dave Gill to the outside, bailing way out of it then. Was the right call because Gill overshot himself going through the roller coaster, and he's got to take the most trepidatious downhill section of all of the track.
Yep, and then also having to watch because Marcellus Bruning was coming around, and now he's going to be battling with Jeff Browning and Esteban Guardarama as well. So that's a big mistake. And again, may not have happened if you could see it.
Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on Jan Stentenpool because he's actually crashed out of this race. He's thrown it in the walls, just about starting the snake. So getting himself through at turn 5 and 6, and he just loosed the back end and bang, I think you've just seen exactly what I have, straight into the tires.
Yeah, that's a hard hit, and that's partially because you get up on those curbs. These are some high curbs here, and if you don't hit them exactly right, that will whip the back end of your car around. and make an unrecoverable issue, and that's exactly what we just saw with Seltenpool.
We certainly did, and that's not ideal as you go on through. It's a very, very fast place, and in the way that you go through those lefts and rights, it's a very violent place to go and have an incident as well. Of course, we've got a lot of people watching us live here with YouTube. Of course, Barrister Benjamin asking what's the strength of the field. I don't know, but we're not in an official race, so we talk about iRacing and safety rating. It doesn't really matter in a league race format here, Frank, because when you look at a season like this, it doesn't matter how quick your iRacing says you are. It's about how you do in the race, lap to lap.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's also, I mean, it also doesn't really matter because we've called so many races here on this network where 1K guys are soundly beating guys who have I ratings of 3K and 4K. It depends on the car, it depends on the track. It also depends, at least in this series, on the setup as well, if you get it right, and also timing a pit stop. There's a lot of variables that just change that whole strength of field to where it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there are lots of variables in these sorts of races, so you've got to keep yourself alert to the action that is going on. Pavel Vasiliev has led every single lap of this race so far. It is Christoph Boozy there in second, but the gap to Paul Ilbrink is 2.2 seconds between Boozy and Ilbrink himself. So that's a very good indication of how they're going. Vasiliev and Boozy, mid-34s. Ilbrink, that was a high 34, so he's falling backwards, doesn't have the same pace.
Yeah, and Boozy right now, I believe if I'm looking through this properly, is the fastest lap of the race at a 34.33. So that number 77 is really, really quick. And Boozy might, I mean, we just saw the graph of how he's been able to keep up and actually close in on Pavel Vasiliev. This could be a more legitimate fight for Vasiliev than Ilbrink's was because Boozy is quicker right now.
And it's not the case that Christoph Boozy is a slow driver at all. Remember, last season at Long Beach, he actually finished second to IM Keeman there. So he's definitely got a good cadence on him as he looks to try and battle hard for it. Loses a little bit of time over the course of that lap going forward. And Ilbrink, in fact, has now dropped back behind IM Keeman. So I wonder if there was another mistake. There was, and it was coming out of the Oak Tree corner.
Yeah, we're looking at Keeman, and you're right. Again, just Ilbrink a little too early on the gas, spun the back end up and kicked it around. See him weaving it down. He's getting frustrated with himself already.
It was more the fact that he pushed a little bit too hard through the Oak Tree, caught the grass on the outside and the dirt.
Oh, he's around again, I think. It looked at, or at least that camera angle, it looked as though he was around.
He was off, definitely. Going through, took too much, grabs the curb, and he's lucky that it's on camber to save himself at that moment of track because he's still in this race, and this is the Paul Ilbrink that really needs to be away from Paul Ilbrink's game, where it's just minor mistake after minor mistake, which compound fractures every race.
And just think, it really started, you just mentioned the race at Long Beach. It really started there. I mean, he made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes at Long Beach. And then just as the season went on and the season progressed, sure, he won some races at the back end of last year, but he also had a lot of those same issues where it was small mistakes. Of course, we remember Zandvoort last 2 weeks ago as well, and now here it's just little mistakes. And this is the point in the race where I want, oh my goodness, I would want to come in for a pit stop, but it's still way too early. Just take that time, slow roll through pit lane, sit in the box for a second, just kind of recompose yourself, gather your thoughts back up. And he's just, unfortunately, it's just too early for that right now.
It's just a case of mistake upon mistake. They breed them at this stage. If you're Paul Ilbrink, he's not going to be very happy with the way that his race is going right now. He's dropped a lot of time to IM Keeman now, and it's very, very alert. You're going to have to be around this track because this is a track which does not forgive or forget. If you start making mistakes here, my goodness, you're in for a very long race. You could be driving laps around this place if you start making mistakes, Frank, which are 6 kilometers long, not 5.26.
Yeah, and I think Vasiliev might have made a little tiny bit of a mistake there in the first sector because he was up by about 1.2 seconds, and I think both Keeman and Ilbrink are off. Ilbrink is off, and he is out of it. At
And
Oak Tree.
Just like that, the Oak Tree corner is so difficult because you go fast to slow. Ilbrink straight on, hard into the tyres. That was game over. Always going to be. Keeman just in front. A different style of mistake as he just took too much through the mid part of the apex of the corner. But Ilbrink losing it as he's gone through, trying to gather that time back again. And that is day and done for a former champion.
And he's frustrated too. We just rode on board with Ilbrink, and once he realized he was off, he turned it left right into the wall head on, as now Boozy giving a serious challenge to Vasiliev.
And Pavel Vasiliev's got to be alert here. He knows this isn't the widest track in the world, so he can use that to his advantage. So going through that NASCAR bend, and now you've got that left hook, which comes along turn 3, and what I like to call the right hook of turn 5. Out there, and now they start the snake and work out where they need to be placed. And of course, this is where the dirty air effect comes in. You are chasing, which makes it very tough to follow through this section.
Yeah, it certainly does, and we're riding on board here with Boozy as he chases him up. Again, it's not all that difficult going up through here, but it's this one that's the big problem, and I think Alvarez has had a moment as well.
Javier Alvarez is out, so now no chance to capitalize. Made a mistake. Going to turn 4, was up there in 4th place going through. His paddle didn't work. That's what I'm hearing here, that he couldn't get himself through and up the gears, so he has retired as he couldn't switch gears. So a gearbox failure there, or a hardware failure for Javier Alvarez, forces retirement for the Positive Sim Racing driver.
Jean-Michael Gagnon now will move up into the 4th position. We've talked about him being off several times, as I think Keeman has also had a moment. This is coming up through the S's, going down into Oak Tree, and does pretty much the same thing that Ilbrink did. However, he was going a little bit slower and was able to catch that curb, and that curb actually really helped him.
Yep, certainly did. It saved his bacon, so to speak. Boozy has just tried around the outside of turn 1. That hasn't worked, so he's looking every which way. He's looking left, right, central. He might as well try slantways and snozways if he wants to try and get through. Where's Willy Wonka and his great glass elevator when you need an overtake?
Exactly right. As we look off the back end of Vasiliev coming through this S section here, well, you get so much draft. Unfortunately, you can't do anything with it unless you want to try to make a move at Oak Tree, and that is a dangerous proposition.
It very much is, and Christoph Boozy is just struggling to carry the speed through that south bend and up towards the Oak Tree. He just doesn't have the run as he comes out to the exit of the corner to go out there and go for it. I think he's built a car here as Christoph Boozy, which runs absolutely stellarly in front, but when it's stuck behind someone like Vasiliev, he is just really struggling to get the most out of it.
That to me means low downforce. That to me means he's set the car up for top speed down these long straights, and even through that snake section, you're on it full throttle. You don't need a lot of downforce going through there. So if he's having this much trouble riding behind somebody, that to me means low downforce as Gagnon and Guild go at it again here. This is the same part of the racetrack where Guild went off trying to pass Gagnon earlier. This time gets the move done well in advance.
And that's the key as well. You're fighting for the braking zone, and it's such a tough braking zone there at turn 14A, so to speak there, because you've got that small kick left, which takes away some of that braking force as you go through the corner.
It certainly does. And back up at the front here, these guys, once again, I believe this is, no, we're almost we're at the bottom of the hill. Yeah, bottom of the snake, you're right.
And this is very much ideal for Pavel Vasiliev. He is ticking off laps right now, lap 12 of 38. And that pit window, you would say, Frank, probably goes all the way to about lap 27.
Yeah, I would put it between 22 and 27 as well. As this, it comes down to now, do you pit early? We've seen how much the undercut works in these cars. Do you maybe pit a little bit early to try to get yourself a gap over Boozy? Do you try to pit with him? That's the game that these guys are playing right now, because it's these two drivers. Keeman's 10 seconds back. It's these two in a battle for the win. Now you're playing mind games with each other.
I tell you what, there shouldn't necessarily be a sense of urgency then for Christoph Boozy in the 77. If you got 10 seconds back to IM Keeman in third, you've got no reason to go out there and really attack for it at this stage. Vasiliev is the one who'll be feeling under the cosh right now. Boozy's probably the coolest head in the field at this moment in time. We've got some great scraps up and down the order. You've got Bruning and Browning together as well. They are 6th and 7th at this moment in time, and they'll be working hard to go through. 3 retirements then from this race. Steltenpool, Ilbrink, and Alvarez so far are the retirements that we've got here, and this is going to be a real shake-up in terms of the championship when you consider 1 point for Ilbrink, 1 point for Alvarez.
Yeah, certainly, and Vasiliev right now is going to come out of this with the points lead. I think Boozy right now should come out of this race in second with Domingo not being here. So this is certainly a big shakeup as we watch these two Tulip Racing US cars battling at it here coming out of 1.
Yeah, and over towards turns 2 and now 3 here at the NASCAR bend, that left-hander, as they try and work their way through towards that snake at 6. So these two figuring out where they need to be. They've got a couple of seconds here to Max Shapley, who is there in 8th position. And Shapley quietly working his way through, just putting consistent laps in. This will do a lot of help for Atomic in the team's championship.
Yeah, certainly. And going, Shapley didn't finish the opening race, so this is going to be nice for him to come out of here. It's a mid-pack finish. He is running comparable lap times to the 2 Tulip Racing USA cars in front of him. So one mistake by those guys, and he could have be as high up as 6th. And Gagnon right now is not all that far up the road either.
Nope, certainly not. But he is running quicker lap times than those in front. Bruning getting close to the back then of Jeff Browning. I wonder if there'll be any team orders here as they go in towards 14 and 14A. Nope, no chances for that. So once more, it's a waiting process here in this one. And I'm sure that some are looking to try and make sure that they push themselves as far forward as they can. This is going to be a very tough race, and one where I'm sure you want to mitigate as many factors as possible. One of them will be how you overtake. Bruning with a really good run out of the hog pen, and now is going to look to try and attack here on the inside, and that is comfortable, well made.
Yeah, Browning didn't put up too much of a fight there, as Alvarez actually has come back. He's just leaving pit road now, going into turn 1, so whatever issue that he had has been fixed. And Alvarez right now only 2 laps down. That certainly helps with how big this racetrack is, or at least it's showing that he's 2 laps down.
I've got him marked down.
3 laps down.
Yeah, I've got him marked on the board at 3 laps down at this stage. So Javier Alvarez is desperately trying to score some points. He knows Ilbrink's out of it. He knows the pedals were real struggles.
My goodness, is that Maz? It is. Boy, right into your living room. Jeez.
Yeah, and that is how you go off at the snake. Turn 6, catches the tyres, and he almost flips. He tips and teeters once and twice, and then he goes up over end once and twice with a very violent crash.
Yep, and just right in front of our cameras as well. As, boy, that's an interesting sight to see. Did the same thing that Steltenpool did. Got a little too much curb at the base of the snake, and it sent him around, as now this battle between Vasiliev and Boozy is right back on.
Someone should give a medal to that cameraman for bravery. He held that camera all the way and made sure that he was not taking his eyes off it, even as the car went through the camera.
Absolutely. That's why we've won a couple of Emmys here at ESPN for camera work like that.
Absolutely. Now look at Christoph Boozy right underneath here. One Pavel Vasiliev as he charges through the left. But again, Vasiliev at that south bend just has that uncanny ability to pull out a 10.5 or 2. And it gives him all the run then as he comes down the hill out of the oak tree.
And even riding on board, looking out the back of Vasiliev's car, you could tell how much better a run that he gets coming out of oak tree as well. He's got that car pointed very, very straight, very early, as now Boozy's going to try to do the same move that Guild put on, gave each other plenty of room, but Vasiliev just able to hold on.
That was a case, really, of playing a trial by numbers overtake there. Pavel Vasiliev gave all the room on the inside, trying to leave that one open, but that initial attack has opened up a secondary one because Boozy now will have the run as they come over the line and go towards turn one. He's got to go the long way around, but crucially, he's got the overlap into the braking zone, and he gets it nicely turned in as well. Christoph Boozy takes the race lead on lap 16.
A very good move by Boozy. Had a very good run coming out of that last sector, and now Boozy's going to have the run. He is going to be the one to lead the charge up the snake now, and we'll see now what kind of setup that Vasiliev has. Is it more arrow focused or is it more straight line focused the way we think Boozy's is?
Well, that's going to be the real question here. How quick is Christoph Boozy and how far can he stretch that gap just before the pit window? Alexander Rogenbach has come down in the first real taker we have seen on the lane. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play about. I think you're seeing two very similar setups at play here because it's the same sort of issue we're seeing stuck behind for Vasiliev that Christoph Boozy had.
It's the turns at the top of the hill. Vasiliev was actually catching him up through the snake, but it was that hard left is what really put Vasiliev back. You need so much downforce in order to take that turn flat out the way you can if you're running by yourself. So that's that right there. That's the bogey corner going up the hill into Oak Tree.
It certainly is, and we have another little look then. So Browning and Bruning then are once again positions changed once more then, it seems. So they are in line, and look who's going to join the party in the next couple of moments here, Frank. It's Max Shabley.
Yep, he is right up here. He's been making that move forward slowly but surely. Is not running quicker than these guys. No, actually he did. He ran quite a significant amount quicker. I was looking at the wrong bracket there. Ran about a second quicker than Bruning on that lap, and then about 3/4 of a second faster than Browning. So he is certainly on his way up, is Shabley.
He really is, and it is showing at the moment how much he wants to get himself up there into what is P6, which is where the eyes are targeting at this moment in time. 36.1 in comparison to a 35.7 though at a 35.9. Does drop a little bit of time as Bruning and Browning again nose to tail as they exit turn number one out there on track and try and figure out how they go through in this race. It's been very key to see, and as well we haven't really talked about Dave Guild, 4th position. He's having a very quiet race. He's been up and down and all around him, somehow back to where he was.
Yeah, and he certainly has had quite a race in that 98. We saw him have that moment passing Gagnon, recovered, has gotten back on track, gotten back around Gagnon, and from there he's running a very solid 4th position right now.
And it's that solid 4th position which scores points. And of course, no Danny Herkstra here today to help for the team's championship. So Dave Guild has got to do it all on his own.
Yeah, Vasiliev and Boozy are right back on it here going into turn one. Vasiliev trying the same move that Boozy put on him a couple of laps ago. Just not quite able to make it.
Not yet anyway. There's still time on the horizon to make something happen. Remember, we're only lap 18 here of 38, so they've got 21 laps to figure this one out between them. They are extending their gap to everybody else in the rest of the field, and their focus is going to be one thing and one thing only first, finishing. But at what position? Because right now I would say Pavel Vasiliev, he's got the cards in his hands. He can now sit behind and save a little bit of fuel if he wants to in comparison to Christoph Boozy.
He certainly can, and he also has that ability now to undercut and kind of catch Boozy off guard. It's a lot easier to undercut somebody when you're sitting behind them as compared to trying to guess when they're going to come in front of you. So that's, I mean, while of course you always want to be leading the race, he certainly is at an advantage of, as far as what you said, as he's going now for a move going into 14.
And this will have to force defensive Christoph Boozy there in the camel livery as he looks to try and attack off the corner. But you just get so much of a run coming down the hill. Struggle with the air effect as you go through the hog pen. But then as you try and attack forward, I wonder if Vasiliev needs to be a couple tenths of a second back. He wants to really go out there and attack and make something happen. He's not got anything on this front stretch to go and make the move just yet. But my goodness, are these two proving that they are equals to each other.
And looking at the wrong time there. That's Vasiliev back to Keeman. Boozy has been just a little bit quicker, was less than a tenth quicker on that last lap, but going into the hog pen, Vasiliev was so close to Boozy as we rode on board with him. He had to back off going through there, and that cost him a lot of time down the straightaway as we now watch them wind their way up the snake here.
And now you'd say for Pavel Vasiliev, he knows what he wants, and that is to score points. He really put the cat amongst the pigeons, of course, at the round opener. He put a few eyes on him, saying that he has pace, he is quick, he does have that ability to get there. Couldn't pick up the victory overall, but he did pick up some very, very good points, and that's the key to this sort of championship, especially this season. This isn't going to be a straight-out dogfight between Ilbrink and Moritz like we saw last season. Oh no, we're going to see a whole myriad of different winners if this is anything to go by as a form book.
Yeah, and Boozy, it's not just Ilbrink making his mistakes. Boozy and Vasiliev were faster than him on merit, on just raw pace. Keeman was right there. We know that Domingo's incredibly quick. It's still early in the season yet, but there's a good 5 or 6 guys that could contend for a championship, depending upon, like, say, a Manuel Hoyer. We haven't seen him in the first 2 rounds of this season. If he could make the final 8 races, could throw away one of those not starts because of the drop week, that could make it a 6-car battle for this championship.
Certainly could, and every position matters at this moment in time, and I'm sure those drivers in the mid-pack absolutely know it at this moment, and it's worth keeping an eye on the gap between Jeff Browning and Jean-Michel Gagnon out there, who is in 5th place right now, because that has been coming down lap after lap. The gap was down to 3 seconds, 3.1 when they last crossed the line. Gagnon puts down a 37 flat only, and Jeff Browning decides it's time for him to come and make his stop.
Yep, and there's the delta there, and you're right, Browning is in pit road. Opening up on lap 20, right around a little bit earlier than what I had put it at, between 22 and 27. But might be a good stop. Could be a box to overtake strategy, possibly, to try to get around Bruning.
Well, he was already ahead of Bruning.
That's he was, okay.
First thing that you've got to put in mind. The second thing that he's going to be looking at is how much clean air is he going to get. He comes out just ahead of Javier De La Fuente, who is yet to come down in and make a scheduled stop. So this is working out quite nicely in favour at the moment here. Lap 20, diving down in for the pits. I think he's going for it early, knowing what he's got to do in this race, and he wants to try and use these laps to make sure that he is trying to get by Gagnon. I'd have said, though, wait a couple laps, wait until you get into 1 second range.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought as well, is just waiting, as I believe Keeman now has entered pit road. He is in. Is I am Keeman.
Of course, it's a long wait to try and find your box here around the VIR. It's a very deceptive pit lane around this place, so you've got to be very alert to how you go. Dave Guild is going to comfortably go through, but out and away without any troubles. That is going to be good news for those at the front of the field, because they know they can now have a clean pit stop and not worry about being overtaken in the stops.
Yep, and a good 32-second pit lane delta is what we're looking at here, and you're right, they are just outside of that delta with Guild as they continue to run 33, almost 34 seconds up ahead of Guild. So 1 and 2 will remain 1 and 2 out of the stops.
Vasiliev, every single time he goes back onto Madison Avenue, he knows that he's got an ability here to go and challenge for that race lead. And Christoph Boozy knows he is in a race, and he is in a strong race at this moment in time. Neither one of these two want to settle to be second best, and in they both go at the same time. This is a vital stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vasiliev did not have the greatest pit road entry, was kind of hung up there behind Boozy, had to slow down just a little bit. These guys know they're good. 1 and 2, first 2 stalls. Boozy obviously stopping first. Down they go, down and away. Vasiliev is actually going to come out a little bit further behind Boozy now. It's about a 1.4 seconds as compared to just 0.4 of a second, and it's all going to be on pit lane. Vasiliev was a full second quicker on the pit lane than Vasiliev was, and of course this graphic doesn't work.
Oh, well, you have to say at this stage that Pavel Vasiliev, the key in that stop was hitting the box. The box was the key because he had to try and work out where his crew were in comparison to Christoph Busi, who stopped in the box before him. Couldn't work it out. He was very late stopping himself in terms of the box there, Frank, and because of that, I believe that's why Vasiliev is behind.
Busi on pit lane, Busi was a 28.27 compared to Vasiliev's 29.20. In the pit box, however, Busi was a 7.93 second stop, Vasiliev a 7.17. So while he did lose time down pit lane overall, he made up some of it in the box.
He did make up some of it, 0.7 of a second, because he knew the moment that the jacks went down from one Mr. Christoph Busi, he had to go. He had no other option if he wanted to try and keep himself in. Now I wonder here if Vasiliev's going to use that fuel to push himself right onto the back of Christoph Busi once more, and he's just going to sit there, save the fuel he's needed. He's already got the gap back down to 0.7 of a second. This is impressive from Vasiliev.
It depends on how much fuel he put in. If he gave himself about 2 or 3 laps extra fuel, then yeah, you've got power to burn. You could certainly work it. The thing is, you have to worry about is don't burn it too quick and don't burn too much of it off. That's going to be what Vasiliev is working on. As we can see, he does look a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more stable as we're riding on that front wing of Vasiliev. He does look a little bit more comfortable and stable through the first sector as compared to Busi.
What's the key here about fuel strategy races? It's very easy to take that fuel out, but it's a lot more difficult to put that fuel back in again. Look at this. He tucks up underneath. He looks fantastic at the moment here on fresh tyres. He's immediately behind Christoph Busi searching for it. But again, as they come to the Oak Tree corner, he'll struggle through this sector to really give himself a run. He's got about 3 car lengths here as he looks to try and get himself tucked up underneath now and attack through this section. This is the big battle out there at the moment, and I wonder if Busi here is going to sit behind and wait, because through will go Pavel Vasiliev then into the race lead, and the focus now for Christoph Busi, try and force Vasiliev to go quick to run him out of gas.
That could certainly be a play that he is working on here. Also, Busi could also be thinking, you know what, maybe I could force him into a mistake with how hard he's pushing. Maybe I can get him to fall off the track. Also, got to remember, Busi fell back by about 1.5 to 2 seconds early in the run last time through as Dave Guild hits pit road. And Vasiliev was flying. Busi might also have a longer run setup in that car.
I definitely think that Christoph Busi has a car that works later on in these races. I definitely think as well that it's going to be one which we can't determine immediately. Dave Guild, of course, pitting in from 3rd position on the road, should come out net 4th at this moment. Ian Keeman has made a way through. He's out and away. And also in the pits is Bruning and Chablis, both looking to make their stops.
Boy, I'm surprised. We're looking at Chablis right now. I'm surprised with how close to the pit wall he is. I'm surprised he didn't have to realign that car in order to get them into the pits, but a very good set of stops. As boy, these two just will not let each other go up here at the front.
But here's the key with the stop. Well, at the front, they're absolutely key. But actually in that stop, Jeff Browning, who pitted earlier, he is behind both Chablis and Bruning. Why? Because he had an off on that lap where both of those drivers came in.
Yep, here it is coming through 14, the downhill 14. A little too much gas, not enough brake, and right off the circuit he goes.
Yep, so just off the circuit, not ideal, and that is the issue that you see out of a race like this. It can be very easily detrimental to the way that you go out there and battle and hope that it all plays out. So for Jeff Browning, he knows he's got more work to do if he wants to gain those places. Chablis now up into 7th place at the moment in this race outright. This has been some wonderful racing that we have seen all throughout this field. We've got three retirements from this race so far, which are Jan Stentenpool, Paul Ilbrink, and Leonardo Fabian. Javier Alvarez still driving around out there, 4 laps down for Positive Sim Racing. They've had a gearbox issue with the car. They've been struggling with the shifts. That's why he's down. Of course, 1 lap down at this moment in time is Alexander Rogenbach, who pitted incredibly early in terms of the context of his race. And I think he's just gone in and had himself not the best lap in the world either on this one either.
Yep, and this going back to lap 10 here. This is the start of Alvarez's issues. Going through the first sector, goes off and just can't get the car into a proper gear. Pulls it off, sat in the pits for about 3 laps, and that's what's put him so far behind.
Yep, certainly has, and that will definitely not be the ideal as they go through. A nice Spanish contingent then, keeping a little bit of a moment then as they go through, as we did see there, the gears struggling as they go through. And of course, you've also got what happened to Javier De La Fuente at lap 1 with the issues moving forward. But here comes Christoph Bouzy. He's going to look to attack back here against Pavel Vasiliev. Goes to the outside here towards turn number 1, and just enough room. Scare tactics almost then from Pavel Vasiliev. He just about got it stopped and maintains the lead only for the moment through 2, an effort, but not through 3.
Oh, he got really, really close there on that run. Bouzy trying to, as you mentioned, trying to push Vasiliev as hard as he possibly can. Try to pull the fuel out of that number 11. Really making it work up here at the front.
Yep, it's going to be a very tough battle between these two all the way to the end. They've got 13 laps to figure. It's all out between them at this moment in time. Ian Keeman could really profiteer off of this in 3rd position, but this is the key to this race. He's 20 seconds adrift at this moment in time, and those are 20 seconds that you're really going to struggle to get back. It will take a monumental accident between these two to bring anything of this race, aside from Vasiliev or Bouzy winning this one.
Yeah, and then he's got Alvarez right in front of him too, which might hinder him just a little bit. And he's actually off at the top of the hill and noses it into the wall. Is not going to get stuck in that wall as Keeman. He's going to back it out just as Hamilton did at Imola.
Got to be so careful, though. He hasn't gone back too far. He could have easily been disqualified for how much he's gone backwards on circuit. So Ian Keeman gets it a little bit wrong under brakes. He just ran a little bit too wide to the left-hand side of the circuit. 2 tyres in the grass, and that's why he skated on into those tyres, and there's 3 sets of them there.
Yep, and you can see that front damage. That's a new wing right there. And unfortunately for him, that's going to mean he's going to lose that spot to Guild. Is going to most likely lose another one to Gagnon. This could drop him all the way down from 3rd to about 8th.
That could be a real shame for him. It depends on how bad the damage is. If he feels like he can stay out with it, there's a lot there.
No, he's in.
Damage, no, he can't. He has to come in. He has to serve it. Stopped. And now Dave Guild profiteers and jumps onto the podium.
Yep, and that's going to be big there. Gagnon's going to come around. We'll take a look at the track map. There's the 75. It's a little bit of a dulled circle there. He's going to get the new wing. He's going to get new tires. The car you're going to be looking at here is the 63. That is Jeff Browning. That could be the last position he loses. Comes down off the jacks. And, yeah, he's going to fall all the way from 3rd to battling for that 7th position as there goes Browning.
There goes Jeff Browning. So not ideal for Ian Keeman, and he very nearly throws it off the road immediately there on cold tyres through turn 1. So very much struggling at this moment in time, and it is showing at this moment how easily VIR can be a tough circuit to make mistakes.
Yep, and that's all cold tires. Everything that he's going through right now, he's pushing too hard on cold tires. That's it for Ian Keeman. He's got to really back it down, really relax and take it easy for about a lap or 2. Then he can start working on his recovery drive.
That he certainly can. So work to be done then in terms of this one. The race leaders now have nearly 40 seconds here of a margin to 3rd place in Dave Guild. So work to be done then in terms of Dave Gill if he wants anything more than that. Esteban Guadarrama now is about to be put a lap down, and this is awkward because this is right in the middle of the snake that he is going to be caught.
Yeah, and it's awkward because there's really no place to pull over. It's really just one line up this hill, pretty much all the way up until you get to the hairpin at the top of it. So it's not good. It's not a good position for Guadarrama to be in. It pulls over, gets right out of the way at his first convenience.
Yeah, and all of that brought Christophe Bouzy back in. That gap had spiraled out to 0.7 of a second. And now all of a sudden he's been able to work that gap back in. Marcellus Bruning as well. He's done really well over this stint. That gap now under a second between himself and Jean-Michel Gagnon.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. And I Am Keeman also has had another off. Just got a little too far out over the curb coming out of Oak Tree and sent him spinning. So Keeman is... It's almost an Ilbrink situation now, isn't it, to where he's gotten out on these cold tires, and it's mistake after mistake after mistake.
I think we need a doctor here today, Frank, because there is a rampant case of Dutch mistake disease.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
Unfortunately so, but there's still more racing here. Gagnon really under pressure now from Marcellus Bruning, who wants to move up into what is 4th place.
You know, riding on board the back of Gagnon, and you can just see how much more straight line speed Bruning has past going into turn 14, and that was about as academic as it gets right there.
Yep, an easy pass. Now there has been a mistake for Christophe Bouzy in 2nd position, trying to put the power down over turn number 1 on the exit. The back stepped out, and that gap has spiraled out to about 2 seconds now in this race. Pavel Vasiliev finally has some breathing room, and it's taken him 29 laps to get it.
Yeah, it's a 1.6 second gap now, 1.7, as Bouzy's a little slow coming out of Oak Tree. So you're right, this is some breathing room. Vasiliev now has 2 options. He can either turn it down just a little bit in order to recover some fuel, save those tires in order to battle Bouzy later on if Bouzy's able to catch back up, or he could try to pull the gap out as much as he can and worry about saving later.
Yeah, so now it's a case of 2 minds. Does Vasiliev save now or save later? I'd try and build a gap, see how much you can build. If you can't, then you're forced to save no matter what happens. So we're down to 9 laps to go here at VIR. The gap is 2 seconds between Vasiliev and Bouzy, and what a time for Vasiliev to put a 1:34 flat down on the board, which was exactly a second quicker than his last previous lap.
Exactly a second quicker than his last previous lap, and exactly 1 second quicker than Bouzy that last lap. So that was a big jump for Vasiliev. Bouzy, however, looks as though he's got that straight line speed, and now that he's not going to have any dirty air on his front wing coming through this corner that Vasiliev's about to hit now, this one here, that could mean a lot of help later on.
Certainly could, and that's what he's trying to focus on here, just putting in some nice consistent laps on the board, force Vasiliev to still have to push for it right now, and this race could still be won and could still be lost on top of that. Meanwhile, there's some nice gaps at the moment in the mid-pack between Bruning, Gagnon, Chablis, and Browning. It's about 3 to 5 seconds between all of these drivers, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yep, and as Bruning locked up a little bit there, here comes Chablis coming through. We'll take a look at the gaps on those 4. Yeah, Browning about 4 seconds off the back of Chablis, Gagnon. They're all in a very comfortable range to where they're not really being pushed, nor are they really being hindered.
Yeah, that definitely looks like the case at this moment in time, where they aren't necessarily quote-unquote battling, but you have to keep in mind that they are going to be battling for these places, and it's going to be tough, especially with how Gagnon really struggled on that last lap, being overtaken to a 37.5. That lap he just put down in on the board. So Chablis will see that as a point of weakness, and he'll want to try and go out there and catch that and make sure that he's helping his teammate Pavel Vasiliev.
Yep, and he was the slowest one of the lot on that lap. Of course, being overtaken. Actually now coming back up on Bruning as he overshoots turn 14 a little bit. But Gagnon actually making up ground on Bruning prior to that mistake.
Yep, certainly making ground. I just want to note that Alexander Rogenbuck has just driven through the pits. That will be for a penalty for hitting 10 incident point limits. So that is not ideal for him. He's got 10 more incidents now. Otherwise, then he will be chucked out of the race. And he's got himself about 8 laps to make sure he doesn't hit that. Of course, not ideal when you have a penalty. Not ideal when you're racing 2 laps down.
No, absolutely not. And he has Alvarez the next position behind him, but it's still a couple of laps clear of Alvarez, so it really doesn't matter unless Rogenbuck gets himself kicked from this race. Then his 11th is basically his.
Well, it definitely looks like that at this moment in time. Gap at the front now up to 2.5 seconds here. Vasiliev is turning the screw, and Christoph Bouzy has nothing to respond with at this moment in time. The 77 is outflanked and outmatched at this moment in time. He's hoping that he can get something back in the latter stages of this stint, but Vasiliev right now is just running some wonderful lap times at this stage. His last 3 laps have all been in a range of a 34 flat to a 34.3. When you look at it in comparison to Christoph Bouzy, 35 flat, 34.2, 34.7. Not enough consistency.
No, not yet. And Vasiliev, it looks as though he's taken the latter of the 2 options I laid out a moment ago of go for it now, worry about saving later, as he has really started to open up this gap on Bouzy. And that might have been Bouzy staying up there because of the draft that he was getting off of Vasiliev's car. Vasiliev, a pole sitter clearly, but you also got to remember, he was a pole sitter by a half a second over Bouzy. So Bouzy might have been staying up there on borrowed speed.
Some would definitely say that. I'd say he stayed there on talent, and when he ran out of a second, he ran out of it, so to speak, and he needs to try and find a way to get that back, but he's doing a good job of keeping it at least honest.
He's pulled a half a second
race
back this lap.
Exactly. He's done very well. Look at that time. It's a 33.8 from Christoph Bouzy. He has found a wonderful lap time there, and that, by all metrics, is the fastest lap then we have seen in this race to point. Christoph Bouzy is absolutely flying.
Yeah, he has turned up the wick. Fastest lap by 1/100th of a second over Vasiliev, who set that lap quite a bit of laps ago. Dave Guild also getting in on the action. Guild just put his fastest lap of the race in at a 34.09. So Guild is running at those guys' pace. Unfortunately, he's 41 seconds behind them.
Well, 41 seconds of a gap never stopped Alain Prost from winning in Monaco against Ayrton Senna. I'll just point that one out there. But at least for the moment, it's going to be all about how you figure out a way to finish off this race and finish off as much as you can, because it's okay having a good gap right now. You have to go and execute from now until the end, and that is the focus which Christoph Bouzy's thinking about now. He's in that final 5-lap zone, which will be coming into play. They will have 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38 to finish when they cross the line, and Vasiliev knows he's still got to keep going here.
He's got another half a second pulled back on Vasiliev. This is going to be a really, really good race come the end of this thing. Is seeing in the back, Rogenbuck has gone off again, unfortunately, in that number 70. But still, wow, he pulled in even more that time. Bouzy resets fastest lap of the race at a 33.73. He is on it.
And Vasiliev isn't necessarily riding around badly. He's doing 34.3s at the moment at the front of this pack, and he knows that he has to, at some point, turn the wick down and save the fuel. I wonder if this is him doing that now, but at the same point, he's only saving a couple of tenths of a second at contrast per lap. So I'm not sure how much he's actually saving here compared to Christoph Bouzy, who's decided, right, Tampa 2, let's go.
Yeah, and you can see from the graph here that's on screen right now, it's a slow gain for Vasiliev after Bouzy made that mistake. But over these last couple laps, Bouzy has taken chunks out of Vasilyev's lead. Those are some pretty dramatic steps there.
They've got traffic in front as well. It'll be Javier De La Fuente in 9th place that they'll be looking at, and it looks very much like a very important gap as we've seen on those Manhattan Sky Towers that we've seen on a vertical angle right now. So now what can you do if you're Pavel Vasilyev? You've got to find that pace once again. It looks like a little bit of a better lap this time from the number 11, but the 77 by no means is giving this one up. This is going to be a race all the way to the checker.
Yeah, he still gains on this lap, but not nearly as much as what he's gained over these last 2 laps. We'll compare the times here as they cross the line. It's a 34.11. Yep. Oh, he did lose actually, a 34.11 to a 34.23 for Vasilyev and Boozy. You know what? Actually, we're going to do. We're going to throw the wrong one. We're going to throw the sliding lap times out here for the final couple laps.
I think we certainly will, and that's going to be very key in terms of this race. There is also another battle that will be coming along towards the end of this one, and it's Jean-Michel Gagnon who'll be up against it here as he's just gone around, and through will go Max Shabley.
Yep, and that looked like too much power coming out of Oak Tree. We'll take a look at it and see what happens here. Is he going to get too much power? Yep, just a little too much. He got close to the grass, but didn't quite touch it, and that's unfortunate. But for Shabley, Atomic Racing 1-5 right now.
Yeah, that's incredible work from them at the moment, but it's not a guarantee here in this one at this moment in time, because now Gagnon and Browning are having their scrap, and I Am Keeman's not a million miles away either. So Jeff Browning really wanting to put the screw down and say, you know what, P4 and P6, that would definitely be a way to have a very nice result.
Yep, absolutely, for Tulip Racing USA, and that would put the Tulip Racing cars overall 3, 4, and 6. As now here comes Browning taking a look, taking a look going into turn 1, just did not quite have the pace to get that in.
No, he didn't quite. So that was a case of once more having to be patient, having to wait for the opportunity to present, and it's not quite worked. Gap at the front, now 2.2 seconds again. Christoph Boozy, 34.8 on that last time by. Vasilyev, with the aidance of Javier De La Fuente, 34 flat. That is game set unless Vasilyev's out.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know if you would say it was with the aid of De La Fuente, because he's been running those times either way, but still Boozy certainly had a big moment to be 0.8 of a second off of Vasilyev's time. He had to have blown a corner somewhere.
Didn't really look as much as if he blew a corner, as if he just minorly made mistakes with 4 or 5, which caused the gap to skyrocket here. So for Christoph Boozy, he knows he's only got one thing left. He's got to try and make sure he finishes this one and make sure that Vasilyev has nothing to save with going through. Browning is now through. No, he's not. He's around.
He had just gotten around him going into 14. We saw the back end of that pass, and unfortunately he's able to just flips it as he went a little too hard coming out of 14.
He was in the grass coming out of 14 there, and it's when he transferred back onto the curb where he got that element of grip on the left-hand side tires, that's when it all just flips around.
Yep, and we're seeing it from way overhead here. Is able to get the move done just a little too hard in, almost like what we saw David Gill do. He just didn't go too far out. It looks like once he hit that curb, he went right around.
It's so easy to do, and now all of a sudden, I Am Keeman, after that extra pit stop for the front wing.
Boozy's off.
Oh, and that's a shame. Christoph Boozy, there is the confirmation then. Just too deep, misses his braking point into turn 1, and he has to take the long and arduous road to get back on. That surely now will put Pavel Vasilyev in the prime place.
Yep, just trying too hard to make up that gap with only a couple of laps to go, just 2 to go here. And that was it. I believe Gagnon has also went off. Coming out of...
Tree.
Yep.
Just on his own, pushing again a little bit too hard. I Am Keeman gets a freebie going on through. Just a snap, and that is the position change. So A fantastic bit of work there from I Am Keeman to recover his way back through this field up into P6. Max Shabley should be a little bit too far, but of course, they're soon going to be starting that last lap, Frank.
Yeah, Browning has his race has completely dissolved after that mistake. He's gone off. This is after the fact. This is coming through that fast left-hander. Back end just completely comes around. He goes out wide instead of cutting back across the track. Going to lose the position to De La Fuente, and a guy who was looking like he was going to finish in 6th is now all the way down to 9th.
Yeah, and that's how easily it can change here at the moment. Behind De La Fuente and just ahead of Esteban Guadarrama. In fact, he'll have to come in because that is a penalty for incidents then on the final lap. That will hurt Jeff Browning as he goes on through. He has no choice. He has to go and serve that at this moment in time, and he will now surely be falling behind Esteban Guadarrama, who's going through the final section. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's going to be okay and stay ahead. So Browning remains in that 9th place, at least for the time being here on this final lap of the event, being led by Pavel Vasiliev, who, for all intents and purposes, was the fastest man in terms of one-lap pace. He got pole position today by over half a second, which is very rarely seen in this sort of race. He was challenged early by Paul Ilbrink here, but after Ilbrink's mistakes and then a litany of other mistakes, he knew he only had one rival behind who he was racing against, and that was Christophe Bouzy. Christophe, they exchanged positions time and time again, but the key was that Pavel Vasiliev, after the stop, was not going to be denied. He goes through the roller coaster then for the final time. He will go down the hill towards that hog pen corner, and Pavel Vasiliev, in just his second start here in the eFormula series, says, I am title contender worthy. Pavel Vasiliev wins at VIR.
Absolutely flawless race from Vasiliev as he crosses the line. What a big, big run for him. And while we were looking at that, we'll go back. Here's Bouzy now coming home, an official second spot. David Guild still a little ways away. While we're waiting for him, Alvarez and Browning had a moment on this final lap. They're battling with each other, going up into the snake. Browning thought he could make the pass. Alvarez, they both go off, going up through the snake.
There was netcode. That's what I will say about that. There was netcode between those two. And ultimately what you can say there for Jeff Browning is that it's a litany of errors which have compounded a day where he was due to finish very well in P6. Ultimately, it is P10, and those are points which you very much struggle to try and get back.
Yep, absolutely. Guild has now crossed the line in P3. Mark Brunning now is going to be the next one. How is that? Tulip Racing 3 and 4. Well, Tulip Racing 3, Tulip Racing USA 4. What a great run for that team here today.
Yeah, they've done a wonderful job to make sure they can get as much as they can. I know Danny Herkstra was watching and making sure that his team was doing the job. Max Shabley, though, what a top 5 that is for him. Started 12th position on the grid. I Am Keeman and now Jean-Michel Gagnon coming to the line, finish it off. So we can run through now official classified results here from the Virginia International Raceway. A wonderful track which has shown once again how difficult this series can be, because Pavel Vasiliev takes it in 1 hour exact and 24 seconds, and he wins by 11 seconds in the end over Christophe Bouzy in second. Dave Guild will take a very well-deserved podium, albeit 50 seconds off of the pace, with Marcellus Bruning in 4th and Max Shabley from 12th all the way up to 5th place, your biggest mover in the field. I Am Keeman had to take an extra stop. He looked like he was a dead cert for 3rd place. We take a little look at the donuts which have been coming through from Pavel Vasiliev. Every reason to be excited there. But I Am Keeman gets 6th with Jean-Michel Gagnon, the last finisher on the leading lap, and in 7th position overall at this moment in time. Javier De La Fuente finishes in 8th position with Esteban Guadarrama there in 9th. Quiet race for him. Jeff Browning, a spin late on and a lot of issues having to take to the pits. He rounds out then the top 10 with Alexander Rogenbuck 3 laps down there in 11th. Javier Alvarez, he had to completely rebind his wheel during the stops there. A shifting issue, a gearbox quote-unquote issue there, meaning that he finishes off in P12. And then the 3 retirements here today, Leonardo Fabian, who scared our cameraman, who was a brave old soldier, Paul Ilbrink, who made a litany of mistakes here today, and obviously a lot of points lost here, and then Jan Stentenpool, who lost out a little bit earlier on. Frank, I do believe now we are in a little bit of a position right now where we have few people very happy with themselves and interviews in the next couple seconds.
Yes, we do. We have our race winner here tonight. It'll be Pavel Vasiliev. You were the fastest overall on merit. You faced an early battle from Paul Ilbrink and then a continuous battle from Christoph Boozy. That had to have been a fun and exciting race for you tonight.
Oh my God! Hi guys, it was amazing. I'm literally sweating. I drive in VIR, so I'm like in the heat of the moment. But I just wanted to focus on my own race, try to minimize mistakes. I did make a mistake in the beginning, which kind of put me off a bit, and I made a mistake coming out of pits as well. But yeah, really happy I was able to catch back up to Christopher and make a move.
I'm sure the pass, letting Boozy go by prior to the pit stops, that looked like a strategy call. It didn't seem like you put too much pressure on him. Were you trying to do what Boozy did as far as coming in on the same lap, or were you trying to undercut him and he just kind of guessed your strategy?
Well, when he went for the pass, I thought it's too early in the race. There is no point in defending it too hard because a lot can still happen. So I decided just to let him through and just follow in his draft. As far as pits go, I was thinking about undercutting him. I would definitely go to the pits on that lap. I made a decision, but he also went into pits. So we kind of, I guess, we're thinking the same thing. But yeah. Really happy with today's race.
I couldn't imagine you being any other way with today's race. Going in 2 weeks' time, we go to Sao Paulo, Brazil at Interlagos. It's one of the world's most famous tracks, a track that we've seen a lot, so I'm sure people would know it. What's your feelings going into Interlagos in 2 weeks' time?
I think it's definitely going to be an interesting race. Interlagos is a great track. It's going to be very different to this week because obviously this VIR, I've never raced here before. I'm sure many other people haven't raced there before. But yeah, like you said, Interlagos, everyone knows. So yeah, there'll be more people, bigger field. I'm sure the times will be more competitive. But yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys, first of all. I watched back the last broadcast. You did an amazing job. So really enjoying watching back your broadcasts. And also my coach Suelio, we've put up some practice yesterday and he helped me find a couple of tenths there. So that contributed to the win. And as always, Max, my teammate Max, he brought some good points today as well for the team. So, yeah.
All right, there is your race winner in just his second time out with the eFormula 3.5 Series. Pavel Vasiliev, congratulations, bud.
Thanks, guys.
User was moved out of your channel.
Some wonderful racing action. I'm sure we're going to be getting the driver who came in second position in the interview right now. Christoph Boozy joining alongside me right now. So, Christoph, it's a case for you where it's another one of those nearly races in tracks which are very seldom run or are brand new to the service. Long Beach, of course, you were P2. Here it's P2 again. Did you feel that this one was the one that got away for you?
No, I think Pavel was really quick on the second run. I couldn't do anything. Maybe 10 laps before the end, I was too tired and starting to make small mistakes. So I lived down a little bit, tried a few laps later to go faster. And no, I couldn't win this one, I think.
Well, you gave it a red-hot go, and it really showed with the way that you were driving out there today. A lot of people making a whole host of mistakes. You, for the most part, kept it out of trouble in the early goings. So in terms of how you had to be patient and take the chances as and when they came, how difficult was it here today to make a surefire overtake?
It was very difficult. I tried a few times and realized that if I tried before the end to make the overtake and be very, very close to Pavel, I could overtake him on the first straight. It was where I feel the more confident. I didn't feel too confident to overtake before. It's very tricky, and you can lose your rear very, very fast. With the big turn from the left when you go down, it's very tricky when you are behind someone. I had to brake every time and go in fifth gear.
So always a very difficult point in time for you in terms of the way that you're trying to manufacture an overtake around here. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for you next time out. It's Interlagos, a track which really you would say that you have maybe an affinity with as you go to as leader of the Privateer Championship.
Oh, my preferred track was Road America. Maybe Kota, I like it very much. The next, I think, is Interlagos. I don't like it. But anyway, I will train. Last time I did the season race in Interlagos, but I wasn't prepared. I did maybe 10 laps before entering the race, so I was very, very bad and dangerous driving, so I prefer to stop before. This time I think I will train a lot. Like this week, I trained maybe 4, 5, 6 hours, I don't know, just to master the track because it's very, very difficult.
Well, the floor is yours, Christophe. Second position. Any shout-outs, any sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank after a very important second-place finish here today?
Oh, I thank everyone here. Very fair, very good driving, and also the organizers because they do a very good job. And it's very interesting to be in this league. And you also because I watch after that all the race, and it's very, very pleasant to watch that YouTube video because you think it's like it's real.
Well, that's, of course, always the plan here with us at the Esports Broadcasting Network. Christophe Bouzy there, finishing home in second position overall. Then, Frank, I believe you found Dave Guild, who came home in third place.
Was moved out of your
I
channel.
absolutely have
User was
found
moved to your
Dave
channel.
Guild. And Dave, a very good race for you. You had your problems early trying to get past Gagnon, but you were able to make it work. How was the race from your point of view?
Well, I think I was still grass tracking at the start of the race, wasn't I? But I picked up a bit of damage there. But after that, when I just settled my nerves and just cracked on, it didn't turn out too bad. Lucky enough that everyone else was crashing in front of me, and it slowly pulled me back up the grid. Yeah,
it certainly did. As I'm sorry, I just got distracted. I have a large bee in my room right now, actually. So if you wouldn't mind, would you mind taking over there, Jake?
Oh, absolutely. Whilst we get pest control in at the Marchesi household, Dave, really a race for you, which was quite quiet towards the end, actually, you could say, because it seemed like everyone else around you had their own moments. I am Keeman, Alvarez. You had the likes of those behind as well just fall off. For you, it was maybe more of a case of a Saturday night's drive.
Well, it's a little bit more than a Saturday night's drive to try and get around this track. I tell you, it's a nightmare. But I had my old man in my ear saying, calm down, just bring it home. But do you know what I mean? It's so simple just to make a mistake on this track. And do you know what I mean? You'll end up in the barrier or, like I was at the start of the race, just surfing the grass.
Of course, an incredibly difficult circuit to try and work out. But, of course, next time out is going to be maybe a little bit more of a difference for you, potentially. Interlagos is a track which has all three aspects of driving. It has slow, it has quick, and it has medium speed as well. In terms of trying to build an overall setup there and finding pace, just how rewarding is it to find something that works absolutely fantastically at Interlagos?
Yeah, it's very rewarding. I mean, I've only just started doing my own setups since the start, towards the end of the last season, and I'm finding it a lot better. And do you know what I mean? Just messing about, changing a few bits now and again, and there's not really much to change on these cars, to be honest. It's quite easy to do once you get your head around it. But Interlagos is going to be it's going to be a test. Everybody knows that track. A few people hadn't even bought this track. It was the first time I'd ever drove this track, apart from being back on Forza back in the day. But yeah, no, it turned out pretty well, and I'm looking forward to Interlagos.
Well, the floor is yours here, Dave. Shout out sponsors. Anyone you'd like to thank for this third place finish here today?
Yeah, big thanks to Tulip Racing. They've all worked hard during the week. Big shout out to my old man for being my little spotter there. Thank you very much, Dad. And a big thanks to Bert as well. He joined us even though Danny weren't racing. And a big hello to Danny. Hey, you got podium. Hey, happy birthday. Well, it's not Danny's birthday, but it's one of his relations. Happy birthday.
Well, no worries at all. Dave Guild coming home there with a third place finish. And Frank, if you are still there and haven't been stung by a bee, Interlagos 2 weeks from now, surely it's going to be a fantastic prospect for everyone.
Yeah, it certainly is. My biggest problem is I have no idea how the hell that bee got in here. But one thing during the interview segment that really surprised me, Vasiliev said he has never raced here before. And he was a half a second quicker than anybody else. That statement alone right there just puts the rest of the series on notice. 2 weeks' time in Interlagos, it's going to be really, really interesting.
And of course, the only place you can catch the eFormula series is here with us at the Esports Broadcasting Network. If you are watching us for the very first time at any point in time, or of course, you are catching us live right now, you can check out all the amazing action that comes to you here on the Esports Broadcasting Network. Massive thanks, of course, has to go to the entire team at the eFormula series to help get this done. From, of course, Frank Marchese pulling double duty, or triple duties, I should say, as a cameraman, a commentator, and a bee escape artist. He has done a wonderful job here today. My name's Jake Sperry, and it is Pavel Vasiliev who has said now to everyone that he is very much in the game. He is fighting for this championship just as much as everybody else is. And now we have work to be done here for the next bit of action that will be coming on forward. Interlagos is the holy grail of racing, and Christoph Bouzy, of course, is the rare herring who doesn't like the challenge of Interlagos. What will be the key, though, is how you manage all three aspects of a car: low, medium, high-speed corners. Wonderful challenges await 2 weeks from now with us here at ESPN.